You have been told to kill all debt immediately, treating every dollar of extra income as a weapon against your loans. This advice prioritizes the emotional safety of being debt-free over the mathematical reality of wealth accumulation. But what if I told you that paying off your 4% mortgage today is actually costing you $50,000 in future wealth? The most common financial debate between Snowball and Avalanche methods answers how to pay debt, but they fail to ask why. Today we shift the focus from time until debt-free to net worth growth rate, revealing a hidden error where being debt-free does not equal wealth maximized. The confusion you feel is real because conflicting advice treats debt as an evil that must be eliminated at all costs. This creates a paradox where viewers are told to pay off low-interest loans aggressively while simultaneously missing out on decades of market compounding. The evidence suggests this is often a net negative financial move when viewed through the lens of opportunity cost. We need to look beyond simple rules and understand the fundamental economic equation that governs household wealth. The return you forego by paying off cheap capital is frequently greater than the interest rate charged on that debt itself. To see why, consider the spread between what an asset earns and its financing costs. If your mortgage carries a 3% interest rate but historical market investments earn 7 to 10% annually, paying off that mortgage early effectively locks your money into a guaranteed return of only 3%. You are actively losing the potential for the remaining 4 to 7 percentage points to compound over time. This is not just about saving on interest, it is about the opportunity cost of capital. By aggressively paying down low-cost debt, you accept a guaranteed but modest return while missing out on higher-yielding asset growth that could have occurred in parallel. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. The logic behind this strategy rests on a concept established by international economic institutions regarding fiscal sustainability. Academic analysis and IMF technical notes establish a universal rule for sustainable debt. Debt becomes manageable when the interest rate paid, often labeled as R, is lower than the economic growth or return rate of your assets, labeled as G. The International Monetary Fund notes that a Ponzi game occurs only if the cost of borrowing exceeds your ability to grow wealth faster than that cost. Conversely, if you can earn more in the market than the cost of your loan, holding the debt is mathematically sustainable and advantageous. This reframes the viewer from being a reckless borrower to a strategic allocator who understands leverage. This distinction creates two very different paths for household finance, depending on the type of debt involved. For high-interest debt such as credit cards carrying 20% interest rates, the cost of borrowing exceeds historical market returns by a wide margin. In these cases, paying off the balance is the only logical move to stop the wealth bleed. However, for low to moderate interest debt like student loans or mortgages under 6%, this dynamic changes entirely. Eliminating cheap capital removes the leverage required to maximize net worth growth and often results in suboptimal outcomes compared to letting that loan linger while deploying surplus cash into higher-yielding assets. Consider a scenario where two neighbors face identical financial situations at age 35. One neighbor aggressively pays off their 4% mortgage over 10 years, becoming debt-free early but leaving no capital invested during those crucial decades of compounding. The other keeps the low-interest mortgage and invests that same surplus cash into diversified market assets every year. Even though the second neighbor carries a loan for longer, the power of compounding at 7 to 10% annually eventually overtakes the savings from interest avoidance. By age 65, the investor with debt may end up significantly wealthier than their debt-free counterpart because they captured decades of growth that was sacrificed in favor of early elimination. This shift requires changing your primary metric for success. The goal is no longer simply asking when you will be debt-free. It becomes a question about how fast your net worth is growing. You must recognize that being debt-free and being wealth maximized are two different goals, and you cannot achieve both simultaneously if your debt carries a low interest rate compared to market returns. The emotional relief of zero balances often blinds us to the mathematical reality that holding cheap capital while earning high returns on other assets creates more value than eliminating every single obligation as quickly as possible. The decision framework relies on comparing these two distinct rates, the cost of capital versus the expected return on alternative investments. If your personal growth rate or investment return outpaces your interest costs, you are effectively using leverage to build wealth rather than drowning in it. This is a cornerstone of rational economic behavior where actors allocate resources to their highest marginal utility. It means that for many households with moderate debt loads, paying off loans early is not an act of financial discipline, but an active loss of potential future value. To apply this today, identify the interest rates on your current debts and compare them to historical market returns, which generally hover between 7 and 10% over long time horizons. If you have high interest balances above 8%, prioritize paying those off first to stop the erosion of wealth. For any debt under that threshold, consider maintaining it while directing surplus funds toward investments that can outpace the cost of borrowing. This approach transforms your financial strategy from a binary choice between safety and greed into a calculated allocation based on hard numbers rather than emotional comfort zones. Understanding this dynamic allows you to make decisions grounded in evidence-first principles rather than generic rules. You stop treating debt as an enemy to be destroyed at all costs and start viewing it as a tool that can either hinder or help your net worth depending on its cost relative to your investment returns. This perspective empowers you to build wealth more efficiently, even while carrying obligations that might otherwise feel burdensome in traditional financial advice narratives. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.